Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be exploring slope-intercept form and how we can use slope-intercept form to write equations for lines. Now, in previous grades, you learned that slope-intercept form is given by the formula y equals m times x plus b, where m is your slope of the line and b is your y-intercept. So we have some examples of slope-intercept form here. Y equals 3x minus 5. Our m, or our slope, would be 3, and our b would be negative 5. So the y-intercept of this line would be at negative 5. Another equation, y equals 5 minus 2x, is also in slope-intercept form, where the slope would be negative 2 and the y-intercept would be 5. And then finally, we have y equals x divided by 2, which is the same thing as y equals 1/2 x plus 0. So our slope would be 1/2 and our y-intercept would be 0. In example 1, it says write an equation in slope-intercept form for each line described. So in previous grades, you learned that you could identify from a graph the slope and y-intercept and then use those to form an equation. So if we look at our first graph, our y-intercept would be here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at negative 5. Okay. Now our slope, we need 2 friendly points. So I need to find one more friendly point here. Let me follow this line. How about right here? And then we'll use our rise over run. So change in y, delta y, over change in x. Our change in y is 1, 2, up 3. And our change in x is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went to the left 5, so negative 3 over 5. So my slope would be negative 3/5. Now, once you know both those pieces of information, you've got everything you need to write the equation y equals negative 3/5 x minus 5. All right, next problem. Start by identifying your y-intercept, which is right up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So positive 7. Then pick a friendly point and use it to identify your slope. So I always start with the bottom point and then I get my change in y. So let's do that. So let's see, I need to go up one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my change in y over my change in x would be 7 over. And then now let's get our change in x. 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4. So my slope is negative 7/4. Now put those together and write an equation. Y equals negative 7/4 x plus 7. Now be careful on your next graph. They want us to write an equation for this line in slope-intercept form. But I want you to notice that the x-axis, we have 0, 5, 10. It's scaled by 5s. It is not scaled by 1s. So that's going to be very important when we're getting our slope. Now let's look at the y-axis. We have 0, 8, 16, 24. So you can see the y-axis is scaled by 8s. Excuse me. So when we're getting our change in y over our change in x, we want to make sure that we're scaling our rise over run properly. So let me connect this here. We're going, oh, I forgot to get a friendly point. I've got one friendly point right here at 32. My second friendly point would be right here. So I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but each tick mark was worth 8. So 8 times 9 is 72. So our rise, or our change in y, was actually 72 units, not 9 units. Now, our change in x it's going over by fives. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. It's going over by 40. All right, now if we reduce these, I believe they'll both divide by 8. Yeah, 72 divided by 8 would be 9. 40 divided by 8 would be 5. So our slope reduces to 9/5. Now the y-intercept was 32. So when I put these together to make an equation, y equals 9 over 5x plus 32. So just be really careful on your graphs when they're not scaled by ones. Now, in example 2, it says write an equation in slope-intercept form for each line described. So in problem A, it says that our line has a slope of -3. So I'll write that down right there. And it passes through the point -7.5, comma 12. Now, I do not know what the y-intercept is because they did not give me the y-intercept. So if they do not give you the y-intercept, then you're going to have to use the formula y equals mx plus b to find it. So what you're going to do is you'll label this as your x and this is your y. And then we're going to plug in our m, our x, and our y and solve for b. So let's do that. So for the y, I plug in a 12. For an m, I plug in a -3. For an x, I plug in -7.5. And for the b, we do not know what it is. So we're trying to solve this equation for b. So 12 equals -3 times -7.5 would be positive 22.5 plus b. And now if I want to get b by itself, I can subtract the 22.5 from both sides. So 12 minus 22.5 would give me -10.5 equals b. So now I know my y-intercept is -10.5. Now, once you know the slope and the y-intercept, we can put that together to write an equation. Y equals -3x minus 10.5. All right, let's look at another one of those with a fraction. Okay, we have a slope of -2/11, and our line passes through the point 22, 5. So again, we do know the slope in this problem, but we do not know the y-intercept. So if you do not know the y-intercept, you can use this formula, y equals mx plus b, to find the y-intercept, as long as they've given you at least 1 point on that line. And they did. They gave us 1 point on the line and said it was 22, 5. So I'm going to put a x above the 22 and a y above the 5. Now, let's plug those values in. For the y, I'll plug in a 5. For an m, I'll plug in -2/11. For an x, I'll plug in a 22, and then plus b. So the only thing we do not know here is b, so we'll solve for b. So 5 equals, let's see, -2/11 times 22 would be -4 plus b. Now to get b by itself, all I would have to do is add 4 to each side. So 5 plus 4 gives me 9 equals b. So now I know my y-intercept is +9. So the equation for the line that has a slope of -2/11 and passes through 22, 5 is y equals -2/11x plus 9. All right, example 3. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for each line described. So in problem A, it said the line passes through the 2 points, -1, 8, and +1, 2. So if you look at this problem, they did not give you the slope or the y-intercept. So we'll have to find both. So to find our slope, we use our slope formula, which is y2 You know, yeah, so y2, let me highlight those. These are y2 and y1. So y2 is 2 minus y1, which is 8. And then x2, which is 1, minus x1, which is negative 1. So 1 minus negative 1. And if we simplify that, we would get negative 6 over positive 2, which equals negative 3. So now I know my slope. Now, once you know the slope, you can find the y-intercept by using y equals mx plus b. But you must choose one of these 2 points to use. You can't use both of them. You can only use one of them. So since I can only use one of them, I want to use the most friendly point, or the one without negatives, fractions, or decimals. So to me, the friendly point for this one is the 1, 2. So I'm going to label it. So just ignore the negative 1, 8 for now, okay? So for the y, I'd plug in a 2. For the m, I'll plug in a negative 3. For the x, I'll plug in a 1 plus b. And let's solve for b. So 2 equals negative 3 times 1 is negative 3 plus b. And then I want to get the b by itself, so I'll have to add 3 to both sides. So 5 is equal to b. So now we found our y-intercept to be 5. So we have a line that has a slope of negative 3 and a y-intercept of 5. That means our equation is y equals negative 3x plus 5. All right, next problem. This line passes through the points negative 26, negative 11, and 39, 34. So I was not given the slope, so we'll have to start out by finding the slope. 34 minus negative 11, y2 minus y1. On the bottom, we're going to put x2 minus x1, so 39 minus negative 26. So 34 plus 11 would be 45. And 39 plus 26, I believe, would be 65. Okay. Now, I can reduce those both by 5, and that would give me 9 over 13. So there's your slope, 9/13. So once you found your slope, now you're going to use your formula, y equals mx plus b, to find your y-intercept. Now, again, you can only choose one of these points to use in this formula. So please do yourself a favor and choose the more friendly point. So I would go with the 39, 34 because there's no negatives. You'll make a lot fewer mistakes if you can avoid negatives. Sometimes you can't avoid them. All right, so for the y, I'll plug in 34. For the m, I'll plug in 9 over 13. For the x, I'll plug in 39 plus b. So 34 equals 9 over 13 times 39 would be 27. And then solve for b by subtracting 27 from both sides. So that would be 34 minus 27 would be, I believe, 7 equals b. So our y-intercept, positive 7. So our equation, y equals 9 over 13x plus 7. All right, in problem C, we want to write an equation for the line that would pass through the points shown on the coordinate plane. So if you can imagine a line being drawn through that, I'll go ahead and draw it. Hopefully I can draw it kind of straight. So here's a line that passes through these 2 points. They want the equation for this line. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my rise over run. Oops, I went too far. Let me erase some of that. Okay, whoops, I erased the whole thing. Let me draw it again. Oh goodness, I'm not doing a very good job drawing my rise over run. Let me erase that whole thing and start over. Okay, I want to go from this point right here up to, or over to that point right there. Okay, so let's count that. Delta y over delta x. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So up 10, and 1, 2, 3 to the left, so negative 3. So my slope is negative 10/3. Now, the slope was easy to find. To find the y-intercept, we'll have to use y equals mx plus b. So I must choose one of those 2 points to use. I'll use the bottom point, which is at 1, negative 4. So let me write that down. I'm going to write down the one I want to use. You could use the top one or the bottom one. It doesn't matter. You'll get the same answer either way. Put an x here, y here. So negative 4 equals negative 10 over 3 times 1 plus b. So negative 4 equals negative 10/3 plus b. So I'm going to add 10/3 to both sides. All right, so negative 4 over 1 plus 10 over 3. I need a common denominator of 3, so this would be negative 12 over 3 plus 10 over 3 would be negative 2 over 3. So negative 2/3 is equal to b. Now put those together in the equation. Y equals negative 10/3 x minus 2/3. All right, example 4. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to describe the line represented by the values in the table. So the first thing we need to do is find our slope. Now, if I were you, to find your slope, you need the 2 friendliest points. So I would probably use these 2. Now write them down side by side. You'll make fewer mistakes. Just write them down side by side like this. So 4, 5, comma 10, 14. So m equals 14 minus 5, y2 minus y1, over 10 minus 4, which would be 9 over 6, which is 3 over 2. So there's your slope. Now, to get your y-intercept, you're going to use the formula y equals mx plus b, and you're going to pick one of the 2 points above to use for the formula. It doesn't matter which one you use, so I'll just use the smaller one, the 4 and the 5. So 5 equals 3 over 2 times 4 plus b. So 5 equals 3 over 2 times 4 would be 6 plus b. Subtract 6, and we get our y-intercept to be negative 1. So our equation is 3 over 2x minus 1. All right, pause the video and try problem B on your own. All right, welcome back. I used the points 2, 0, and 5, 78. So 78 minus 0 over 5 minus 2 is equal to 78 over 3, which reduces to 26. Then I used my formula y equals mx plus b to find my y-intercept, and I decided to use the 2, 0 as my friendly point. So 0 equals 26 times 2 plus b. So 0 equals 52 plus b. Subtract 52 from both sides. So negative 52 equals b. So my y-intercept, negative 52. So my equation is y equals 26x minus 52. And that concludes today's lesson, slope-intercept form of a line.